Yes.
Hi, my name's Robin. I'm an alcoholic and I'm 26 years old.
Hi, my name's Carmen and I'm an addict.
Hi, I'm Sky and I'm an addict.
I'm an alcoholic.
I'm Claire. I'm an addict.
And I'm 19 years old.
I'm 69 years old.
And I'm 25 years old.
Hi, I'm Sinalo and I'm an alcoholic.
And action. I could never just have a drink and then put it down and that's it. Like, at the end of the day, it's done. And the thing is, when I then picked up a drink, or when I used, then I couldn't stop. I had to be that last person getting pushed out of the venue. I had no ability of saying, no, like, that is enough.
I think I was definitely in denial about my alcoholism, my addiction, and I think a large part of why I felt like that was because of my age. I think a lot of the people around me were drinking a lot and using a lot. I kind of felt normal doing that, and for a really long time, I carried on like that was normal until it wasn't anymore. And I was sitting in a lot of pain, but in that, I was kind of denying it for myself.
So my addiction was lots and lots of psych meds. At the end of my addiction, it was about 60 pills a day, doctor hopping, different psychiatrists, in and out of psychiatric wards, sleeping all day, paranoia, hallucinations.
So basically, who I was, instead of what you see in front of the TV screens, was basically someone that would probably stock up the fridge at every hotel that we went to. No matter what country it was, there was always alcohol. When it stopped being fun, actually, I remember one weekend we went out the Friday, business as usual, women around the table, bottles on the table, and when I got home, I literally just disappeared for 4 days. Like, I was in my room, curtains closed, and I remember my mom specifically coming into my room to check if I was actually alive.
Basically, my addiction was I hid it a lot. So if I was around doing normal stuff, people wouldn't know that I'm in active addiction because I wore all these masks. I had this perception that being a mom is about giving my kids financial, giving them stuff and not spending time with them. My addiction was blaming, especially my ex-husband, blaming him for his habits and, justifying why I can use and why I can do the things that I was doing. I could function and nobody would see it, but inside I was like totally broken.
The last 4 years of my life involved the most pain that I've ever experienced. I had run away from home. I had terrible self-worth. I felt empty inside, and I tried to find something outside of myself to fix how I felt. And I thought that I had found that in the friend group that I was in. I thought that I'd found that in diet and exercise and in drugs and alcohol. And I constantly fixed off those things to change how I felt. But through that, I ended up causing the people around me and myself so much more pain.
It was absolutely out of control. There was no escape. I was trapped. I felt safer in that environment than I did on anything on the outside because I did not know how else to live. Because I had lived my entire adult life in active addiction. And that's all I knew. And so for me to even consider that there was a choice or an option, there just wasn't.
I couldn't stop drinking and using. I couldn't live my life with drugs and alcohol, and I couldn't live without it. Nothing really ever got better, but I continuously told myself that it would. I remember a few years into the psychiatry and the therapy just not being so fogged up by the medication that I actually didn't even know if I was getting any better. But I continuously went back because it was the only thing I knew to do. And I always had this idea that I have to be okay. I have to know what's wrong with me. And so attaching myself to the idea that I was psychiatrically ill and needed therapy was easier for me than admitting that I actually didn't know what was wrong and what to do about it. I was miserable. And I just found I was at a point in my life where I just constantly wanted to die.
When you look at someone who's an addict, who's using, what you see as an outsider is just the person doing the drugs. What makes addiction a disease is basically what's happening on the inside. We think that because it's a behavior, there's a choice involved, but there's no real choice for the person who's constantly obsessing about using. They cannot turn that off. It's all that they think about.
It's that obsession where it's impulsive. I cannot say no. I cannot work around it. It's like I have no control over myself or what I'm going to be doing.
I knew what I was doing was wrong, but like I just didn't want to, and it was more like I feel so alone. So if someone says this garage, it's like I'm not going to feel alone anymore. But in also that, I still felt alone. Yeah.
I carried on more than I should have, and it destroyed a lot of relationships, and I ended up losing almost everything and everyone. It brought me to my knees.
Despite the negative consequences, they can't get themselves to a place of completely forgetting or not listening to their mind. And even if they can for one day, the next day is exactly the same. It's almost like your brain's been hijacked into thinking that in order to survive at all, I need a drink, I need to use in order to be okay. There's still like a massive stigma around addiction, and people still fight and say that it's not a disease, even though scientifically it's been proven to be a disease. I can't blame people who think that it's a choice when they look at someone behaving in these very destructive ways to kind of judge, but it's because people don't understand, that they're ignorant of what addiction really is.
No one will ever actually admit it unless they on their own. You have to be one person for the media, you have to be one person for the team. And how do you add those two together? And I think the same element arises around, do I actually have a problem with alcohol?
A lot was missing from my life. I felt very alone, I felt isolated, and I felt very disconnected from the world around me. And I really just couldn't find happiness anymore. It just really felt like a lot was missing for me.
Anyone who really understands addiction and anyone who really, knows on a deeper level what's going on for that person would not judge. If you're thinking that this person is making these choices to hurt their family, to use, even though their bodies are failing, to be so destructive, it's almost like they get tricked into thinking it's a choice, but it's really, really not.
Any type of vulnerability I was so foreign to, because I was like, for you to see weakness, that's like something that you can counter on. I never actually allowed anyone to get to know the real me. I always gave you what I wanted you to see. It was never like kind of seeing me for me.
And I felt like I couldn't speak to anybody about it because I was embarrassed. So it's kind of suffering by myself. Because I didn't want to admit that I had a problem because of the stigma that's around it. I was kind of very ashamed of, coming out and saying that I needed the help, that I was an alcoholic or an addict.
There's a lot of dishonesty attached to this illness, a lot of manipulation, which basically feeds into the stigma that this person and their behavior is so out of line and so out of touch with what we see as a good, functioning member of society. People don't see that those behaviors are very much attached to the disease. I think that people just genuinely don't believe it is a disease because what they see is the behavior.
Dirty.
Junkie.
Low life.
Inqila, which is just being a drunk.
Broken.
Irresponsible.
Thief. Unlovable.
Worthless.
Failure.
Unworthy.
Lots of people get judged. They even get thrown in jail because they have this disease. Someone would need to lie, manipulate, blame in order to survive as an active addict. It's easy sometimes to look at the behavior and just say, this is just an awful person. But actually, this is a really sick person trying to survive.
So I think everybody went because they just got tired of my behavior, really. You know, I did also isolate myself a lot, so I chose not to spend time with family. My mom's also in recovery, so she was working a recovery program and stopped enabling me. My brother lives overseas. He cut himself off quite considerably, and my dad was definitely not an enabler. And yeah, he kind of walked away quite a few years before I went into treatment, which was the right thing. He just said to me, I'm not doing this anymore with you.
At the moment, I really don't have any communication with my family. They're incredibly disappointed in the way that I turned out and the way that I was hiding what I was doing for a really long time. I lost my degree in the process of my alcoholism. I lost a lot of friendships and a lot of relationships. I ruined a lot of people's lives. I hurt a lot of people. And for me, those were the consequences of what I did.
I realized that what I had done had damaged and harmed and hurt my children and my family to such a degree that I believed there was no healing process available to me. I believed completely that I was an alcoholic of the worst kind and that there was no hope.
It's something that's been on my heart for such a long time, is that I see the disproportion in the amount of men that come in for help versus the amount of women. And it's just not enough women are coming into treatment for help.
Me as a woman, what I was expected to be like, I was expected to be the strong person, and it comes from culture as well. You expected to do certain things as a woman. I couldn't have these issues. And it was also like the expectations of other people and how they looked at me. That was a big one for me.
Women are often mums and often ones that are expected to stay at home and look after the house. It's very difficult for a woman who's actually supposed to be taking care of someone else to come in and take care of themselves.
Women in sport and alcoholism or addiction, if you want to put it, is probably something no one will ever pay mind to unless they actually go deep within themselves. I think it's basically up to the person to actually stand up and say, listen, I think I have a problem. Or someone that cares to say, listen, don't you think it's a little bit too much?
They're financially dependent on someone else. If the people who are looking after these women aren't on board with them coming into treatment, they just don't have an option to come into treatment.
It was difficult for me to enter into treatment because I didn't want to be an outcast. I didn't want to be alone. I grew up in a family of really stable, functioning people that didn't look anything like I felt. And so I think throughout my childhood and throughout my life, I held myself to this standard of what I thought a woman should be. I really looked up to my older sister, who always seemed to do the right thing and just seemed like a good person. And I thought, this is what I need to be. This is how I need to present to the world. She always seemed to know, what was going on for her. And so for a long time, I tried to hold myself to the way that she lived her life. And I tried to present as if I was doing the same thing and feeling the same things.
I don't want to ask for help because for me personally, just saying that I have a problem was myself also admitting that I have a problem. I don't think I was really comfortable with myself at the time. And asking for help would mean literally say that I've gone through all avenues in life and there was no going back from. And it was also just the fear of losing my job. Because I love my job, but at the time, I didn't care about it because alcohol just meant more. Me asking for help just was what do I say to people? Where am I? Why do I have a problem when they haven't seen it? Because I was just so good at giving them what they want. And even from when I was a kid, people would be like, you're such a great kid. So me asking for help would be I failed at something and I don't want to fail. So that for me, asking for help was failure, yeah.
I'd lost the plot, honestly. I'd come to a place in my life where nothing was working. And so for me, going into treatment was sort of my last-ditch attempt at doing something to improve any part of anything in my life. I thought, death may be the only way out, but let me just try this last thing first.
Us as women struggle to ask for help. There's a lot of shame attached to being a woman in active addiction. And we all sit with these ideas, these little images and boxes of, that we think we need to take in order to be a okay woman. What really stands out is that we think that we need to be a certain way in order to be loved.
I reached out for help. I said that I'd admitted everything that I'd done instead of holding it back and hiding it. It was hard because for the first time I actually had to make a decision to change myself. And change for me is not easy. So it was kind of a lot of unlearning everything that I thought I knew about myself and just accepting the help that was being given to me because I knew it was my only way out.
I think coming into treatment was a long process that built up for me. I had used to the point where I had lost half my body weight and I was 30 kgs and I was in psychosis and I was falling and having seizures and I didn't know where I was. I went into a psych ward, but I carried on using after that. And since that point, it just progressed and progressed. And I was constantly depressed and I had no will to live. And by the time I had lost everyone, I didn't want to be on this earth anymore. And I tried to take my own life by overdosing. And I carried on experiencing pain. And I went through the same experience over and over until I thought, let me do this properly. And I came into treatment. And I stayed there for 4 months and I found the solution there.
Going into treatment was not easy. It was terrifying. I remember having just breakdowns and panic attacks for the entire week before I went into treatment. And I think what I was really scared of was the thing that I'd been scared of my whole life, that I wasn't gonna belong.
Where everything changed was when it was actually time to unpack who I really was. And I didn't want to see that person because I think that person hasn't lived in my being for a very long time. That was one of my biggest fears, is to actually unlock who I am, because that came with kind of losing the whole comfortable aspect of life. I knew that I'd like that person, but the journey to get to that person was absolutely hell. Having to realize that life is not perfect was the toughest thing, and that I'm not perfect was the toughest thing. And things just don't go the way I wanted them to go. So that's what treatment taught me, is just taking it one day at a time.
Another reason why I think it's difficult for women to enter treatment is because they're afraid. Women don't know what to expect in terms of what the treatment center will be like, if they'll be able to protect themselves, if they'll be able to be safe there. And I often think that that's also what the men in their lives feel. Is my wife, my daughter, my sister going to be safe coming into treatment? It's so unfortunate sometimes that women think that their situation needs to get really, really bad before they look for help or ask for help or go into treatment. If you are thinking on any level that I might have a problem, it's better to go into treatment earlier rather than later, because earlier there's so much more that can be done. There's this misconception that I need to wait up until it's really bad before I ask for help. But I'm telling you right now, the sooner we ask for help, the better the treatment outcomes are.
Going into treatment for me was very scary. It took a lot of courage, and I didn't know what to expect. When I got there, I had this idea of grey corridors, and the treatment facility I went into was completely opposite to what I feared it would be. I don't know how to say this, but I felt like I was going home. It felt calm, it felt peaceful. Everybody was so friendly and warm and welcoming. Nothing being expected of me other than to just show up and be taken care of. It was a place where I could land and finally stop running. Finally got a chance to breathe.
I think it was the best decision that I've ever made. Out of all the horrible decisions I've made in my life, I think that was the best one. Because the way I feel now is not like any way I've ever felt for a really, really long time in my life.
So in my mind, when you think about rehab, that means you've used drugs. This is confirmation that you've been on drugs. So as a woman, as a mother, it's that shame, that guilt, that embarrassment, because embarrassment is a big thing for me. I went into treatment and I still didn't think I had a problem. But there I met such wonderful people that love me not the way I wanted to be loved, the way I needed to be loved. That's what I needed at that point.
Accepting that I'm an addict and an alcoholic and I have an illness came as a huge relief for me. I was actually so relieved. I was like, yay, finally I've been diagnosed properly, because I'd had so many diagnoses and never got better.
It's absolutely never too late to go into treatment, to ask for help, and to be yourself.
And today, I have my family, I have my kids, and I want to live, no matter what. No matter what pain comes my way, I want to deal with it and feel it and live it.
Treatment has given me the opportunity to actually know how to build relationships with people. The one thing that it's given me is another opportunity to live. I thought I was living, but in actual fact, I was just drowning for the life of me. And yes, it's a blessing. I'm blessed to have another opportunity in life here. If there's ever a woman scared of coming into treatment, the first thing that I would say to them is, I can relate. That's where your light that you've been seeking for so long is. All the unanswered prayers that you've probably had, they're there. But for me, it's like, just go in and do it, because what's the worst that can happen if you're already thinking it? So just go do it.
Before I came into treatment, I was incapable of looking after myself. I was incapable of loving, and I was incapable of caring about anyone else. And today, I'm proud of myself. Today, I'm an independent woman in recovery. I don't have to be in active alcoholism and active addiction for years. I don't have to experience so much pain that I'm living on the streets and I have absolutely nothing left until I ask for help. It's never too early to make a change. It doesn't have to get to a point where you've lost absolutely everything and you're on the street before you're able to reach out for help. You can stop in time, and then you can save yourself years of pain and live a beautiful life in recovery.
I went into treatment at 36 and I really felt like I'm coming alive. At 36, I'm starting to live my life. I remember going through a detox and starting to connect to nature, to animals, to people, starting to have emotions, starting to have a lot of hope. I had a lot of hope for the first time in a long time. And just feeling really connected. I had been so lost for such a long time, and I felt that I'm not going to be lost anymore. Yeah.
I think it's difficult for women to take an honest look at themselves because we really want approval. We really want to fit in. It's what creates some of the best treatment outcomes for women in recovery. It's usually having a strong community. And that says quite a lot, that we really, really want to belong somewhere. And we're even willing to pretend to be someone that we're not in order to belong. What I found with working with women is that as soon as we get honest about who we really are, what we really feel and what we really think, we become beautiful, relatable, raw, and there's just so real.
I'm Claire, I'm an addict and an alcoholic, and I'm almost 9 months clean.
Hi, my name's Carmen and I'm an addict and I'm 13 years clean.
Hi, my name is Jamila and I'm an addict. 2 years and 3 months clean.
Hi, I'm Sinalo and I'm an alcoholic and I'm 205 days sober today.
Hi, my name is Lynn and I'm an alcoholic and I'm 2.5 years clean and sober.
Hi, my name's Robin. I'm an alcoholic and I'm 3 years sober.
Hi, my name is Sine. I'm an alcoholic and I'm 5 months sober.
Hi, my name is Sky. I'm an addict and I'm now 4 months clean and sober.
Hi, my name's Anal and I'm an addict and I'm 7 years clean and sober.